I'm Pamela Krause, and I've been an IFS lead trainer for about 3 years. I was introduced to IFS when I was actually taking a 6-month Hakomi training. My Hakomi trainer told me about an IFS training that was happening in Connecticut, and it was going to be the first one that was there, and he gave us some information about it. And when I read the information, I just knew immediately that I had to take the training. It made sense to me from the moment I heard about it. And so I took the training, and I think I've always really thought as parts, you know. It just always made so much internal sense to me, and I was always aware of the internal struggles and battles that I had going on inside of me. And so it was a model that actually gave me some conscious, sort of concrete structure to something that I had always known about. So it was really a life-saving sort of thing for me. My hope for each student is that that they can really learn to know and appreciate their own parts. You know, it's always sad for me when people have parts that they really hate or don't like, and it comes from that place of not really understanding their own parts. And so I hope that through the process of the training, as the students learn the model, that they can also learn to know and appreciate their own parts. Yeah. My parts tend to have a lot of energy, so I have a livelier style. I use a lot of humor. There's a lot of laughing in my trainings. They're also very interactive. You know, my teaching style tends to be more interactive rather than just didactic. So I think lively would probably be the best word. There's such a variety of different experiences that we do. You know, part of we do so much practice, which is really experiential. But there's also many of the exercises. One of the exercises I really like is a parts mapping kind of exercise, where you actually, someone begins to embody one of their own parts or becomes aware of their own parts and a particular part, and then they draw that however it would appear on a piece of paper, right? And so they can see it. And that exercise is always really fascinating for me, because somehow people know just exactly what to draw. It might be a figure, it might be a squiggle, it might be whatever, but it gives people a real sense that these parts do have their own nature and they know exactly how they need to be described, and that exercise allows that to happen. And then you can find other parts that are related to that particular one and really create this really lovely visual map of an internal system. So I tend to like to do that exercise a lot. That's really true, and it's something that is great for the students who are generally therapists, but for the students who take it, and it's also something that they can go back and do with their own clients. And many people really like it, because then you walk away with this wonderful visual, and it seems to make everything so much more real, especially for a new client or a new practitioner. So.
Yeah, it's an example of a practical application from the training you can just take and use the next day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I like that exercise a lot. I would say to them that it is just an absolutely remarkable model of therapy, and that it's so respectful of people and yet so incredibly powerful, more powerful than any model I've ever used or experienced in my life, and that I would just highly encourage people to take the training, because it can make a profound difference in not only the therapist's life and the way the therapist works, but the impact that it can have on clients is really phenomenal, actually. I took the training 10 years ago, so I've been using this model for a long time now. But before, I often felt so much pressure to sort of figure out what the right thing to do was. So I was doing therapy from a very pressured place. And I could see that if I had continued practicing in that way, I don't think I would still be a therapist at this point. I was taking on way more than I ever could deal with. And so what IFS has helped me do is really practice from a much more open-hearted way, a much more respectful way, and it's just shifted everything that I do so that I can, like, I really see myself as more of a facilitator as a therapist rather than having to carry everything, which also feels much more respectful of the client, you know, to facilitate them in the discovery of their own parts and their own self-energy, you know, much more respectful than feeling like I have to do all that for them. Well, I think there's a tremendous gift in just knowing that when we operate in a particular way, that that's, quote unquote, just a part of us. That there's a particular part that feels that way and behaves that way, but there are other parts or other aspects to our personality. And I've watched just that awareness have such impact on people. So if you're working, I mean, sometimes I talk with my husband who manages a lot of people, and he'll come home really frustrated. And I'll say to him, remember, that's just a part of them. You know, that's not all of who they are. And it allows him to relax back a little bit and not be so agitated or engaged. And I think that alone can help in the workplace a great deal, you know, in any other profession, really. It also helps me deal with my kids when they're being really adolescents, you know, and charging full steam ahead. I can remember it's only part of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The greatest gift for me has been the sense of calm and centeredness that comes along with having more self-energy and holding more self-energy. And so as life's daily crises come, and they always do, there's always that, you know, Dick will say the calm, you know, the calm in the center of the storm and all that. That is really always there. So always this sense of knowing that no matter what comes, you know, I'll be able to get through it. I think the aha moment came for me early. I mean, I sort of knew when I read about it that it was right for me. And so just from the minute that I walked in, it just made sense to me. I was really surprised by how open everyone was. I missed the first weekend of my training because of a family situation. And so I was really nervous going into a group that had already formed. And it was just remarkable to me. I mean, everyone was really open and welcoming. And I think that's something that's very true of all of our trainings. You know, they tend to be, people tend to be very receptive, and everybody's all sort of in the same boat together, and so there tends to be a lot of caring and compassion and support of one another, and that was the thing that really struck me. I think it's really important for people to take the training, because IFS, you know, if we just like learn about it or read about it, we're really only getting the intellectual understanding of the model. What we do in the trainings is really sort of help you embody the model more. And that's really critical for doing this particular kind of work. It's very important for an IFS therapist to have an awareness and an understanding of their own parts. And I think that really comes through in the training, not only through the experiential work we do, but also through the practice. You know, we actually practice with one another. And I don't think you can get that kind of level of understanding without taking the trainings. We learn so much from each other. So I just go every weekend of a training and come back feeling so full and so connected, and the kind of communities that we create as we do the trainings are just amazing. So, you know, I love it. I love it.